Welcome to Nationalism Hour on the Think Yoruba First podcast. I am your host, Abiodun. And alongside me is my dynamic co-host, Oluwatosin.
That's right, Abiodun. We are here to ignite your spirit and celebrate the pride, strength, and vision of our Yoruba heritage with our esteemed president, Oladimeji Bolarinwa.
Every episode, we dive deep into the heart of Yoruba identity, culture, and progress, challenging ourselves to think Yoruba first in all we do. This is Nationalism Hour, where we uplift, inspire, and build a future rooted in our legacy.
So, get ready for bold conversations, powerful insights, and a call to action with the president of Think Yoruba First organization, Oladimeji Bolarinwa. Let's make history together. Oòduà á gbè wá o.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can I start? Abiodun, Comrade Abiodun, can I start? And Comrade Tosin, do you guys permit me to, or do you still have any other addition?
Yes, sir, you can go ahead. The floor is yours now.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy. Thank you so much for that beautiful and wonderful basic introduction. I'm so happy. One thing I greet everybody in the name of Olodumare. I greet my brothers, my sisters in the audience and on stage. I greet you all everywhere you're listening to me. My fathers, my mothers, my uncles. Without you, we are nobody, as I used to say. This is Nationalism Hour. We started yesterday. Firstly, I want to thank those that made this possible. As many people, some people know, it's been very difficult for many of us to come during the week to do this. But because of the labor of love and how it is important to continue to shape the minds of our people so that we can be able to fulfill our potentials and to understand what our destiny should be within and outside Nigeria, in West Africa, and all over the world, we have to continue to do this. We live in a critical moment. We live in a critical time in history. Many of us listening to me tonight, many of us don't realize that we live at the critical junction in history that is going to shape this century. We live in a moment. We live at a very particular period that will determine what is going to happen in the year 2100. Many of us have studied history very well, and we've come to realize that what happens in the first part of a century actually determines how the end of the century is going to be. So what happened in 1910, 1914 will actually determine what happens in 1980 or 1990. What happens in 1804, 1812 will actually affect what happens in 2000, in 1890 and 1899. I'm going to give you an instance. The fall of the Oyo Empire in the first part of the 19th century, between the period of 1814 to 1825, actually determined the destiny of the Yoruba people in West Africa. And that is that destiny that has affected our lives to this current moment. What happens in the first part of this century will determine what is going to happen to our children in the next 30 to 40 years, in the next 80 to 100 years. And that is why it is extremely important for us to make the right decision so that we do not make the mistakes of our lives and we do not become the victims of the games of powerful people, powerful neighbors, or the victims of powerful external forces, even coming outside Africa. When they say the world is globalized, yes, the world is globalized. And colonialism is globalized. The evil that men do against men is also globalized. We are Nigerians. because of the powerful interest, economic and hegemonic interest of certain powerful people, certain powerful nations, for economic and for their own desire to carve the world in their own image and likeness. Once again, I greet you all in the name of Olodumare. I greet you all in the name of those who have paid the ultimate price for the Yoruba race. For you to be Yoruba, many people fought wars. For you to be able to claim that land you all call today, some call your own today. Some people were persecuted for it. So to be Yoruba is not just for flex, it's not just for Owambe. It is a form. You are enjoying the martyrdom and persecution of some generations, and that is why we must also suffer for the coming generation. It is a duty we owe the coming generation. So we are discussing something today, which is Nigeria a monolith or an amalgam? The reality I want everybody to know today is that an ignorant populace are always the tool of the destruction of any civilization. When we say ignorant, we are not talking about a population that is weak or that is disoriented or that doesn't have bachelor degree, that cannot read or write, or that are poor. An ignorant population are people that would not understand their history. Many of them can even be can even have everything in their comfort zone, just like the Yoruba people in Nigeria. The Yoruba people in Nigeria occupy a particular geopolitical space, a particular geopolitical block, access to the sea, access to savannah, rich lands, beautiful rivers, powerful civilization, powerful culture. It has neighbors to Benin Republic. It is an envy of anybody in the world. And unfortunately, we've had people like Chief Obafemi Awolowo. We've had wonderful ancestors, Oduduwa, Oromiyan, that have come around, done a good job to ensure that we are at an advantage in the geopolitical space, in the geopolitical bloc in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So because of this reason, many of our youths are disoriented to properly understand what they need to do and what it takes to be Yoruba in Nigeria, what it takes to be Yoruba in West Africa, what it takes to be Yoruba in the world. We do not think, we are totally disillusioned of what our role should be, of what our destiny should be, which is why it is very, very possible to manipulate the Yoruba society, the Yoruba community, to act and self-destruct, to destroy themselves. It is very, very easy for a Yoruba man or woman, despite our education, to lack basic form of cognitive dissonance. And that is why it is very, very dangerous. For any great civilization to be destroyed, you need a large chunk of that civilization to be self-destructive and self-immolating towards itself. And we need to thank Almighty God for the obedient movement and the 2023 election that actually exposed how decadent, how it is very, very easy to manipulate an average Yoruba youth, an average Yoruba elder, to actually campaign, to actually support a movement that was designed to destroy the Yoruba civilization. That is the reality. And that is the reality why we are coming here every day. We are going to be coming here to do a 1-hour nationalism lecture. And we call it the Nationalism Hour. Because what many of us discuss in our different cubicles, in our different rooms, in our different parlors, with some of our fellow intellectuals, and we discuss about the issue of Nigeria, we found out that a large chunk of the Yoruba society are not aware of all this. And that is why each and every one of you listening tonight, You are going to take this message. You are going to educate your friends. You are going to educate your families. We are not better than you. We are not better than you. We are all comrades. But just like those of us that like people that illuminate us in the darkness that we currently find ourselves, we are just being fortunate that God has given us this task for us to do. Once again, I greet you all in the name of Olodumare. Is Nigeria an amalgam or a monolith? An amalgamation is the social, the combination, margin of different civilizations and different ethnicities and different nations. A monolith is an homogeneous country. Since in 1914, something was done in West Africa, which was the amalgamation of the North and Southern Protectorate. Nigeria is an amalgamation. Nigeria is not an organic entity. Nigeria was a creation of Britain. It was created by external colonial powers. For you to say you hate colonialism and you love Nigeria, sometimes is an irony. I'm not here to preach secessionist vibes. We are just here to properly talk about what Nigeria is. And it is this lack of understanding of Nigeria that has made a lot of Yoruba youths to become victims of Nigeria. We've become, the rest of Nigeria understand what Nigeria is. The Igbos understand what Nigeria is. The Fulanis understand what Nigeria is. The Ijaws understand what Nigeria is. The Efikibibio understand what Nigeria is. But an average Yoruba man do not understand what Nigeria is. That is why when it comes to a Yoruba, the kind of political decision that the Yoruba people make within Nigeria is absolutely suicidal. It's absolutely suicidal. For you to understand a race or a civilization that will last for the next 1,000 years, you have to look at the kind of political decisions that they make. Politics is not just politics. Those who control your political levels of power actually is going to determine your destiny and your identity. When we talk about if Yoruba land, if Ilorin is a Yoruba land or not, Ilorin is Yoruba land, in and out. The only issue we have there is who are the people controlling the politics in that particular axis. If you say Ibadan is Yoruba land and the people controlling the politics of Ibadan are Igbos, that place is no longer Yoruba land. Politics is extremely, extremely important. Without political power, you cannot be able to do anything. So Nigeria, going back to the topic, Nigeria is an amalgamation. Now, this was the fundamentals on which the Nigeria was created. And from 1914 to 1960, especially after the end of the First World War, there has been different, there were three powerful blocks within Nigeria. The Hausa Fulani in the Northern Protectorate, in the Northern region, the Yorubas in the Western region, and the Igbos in the Eastern region. From 1914 to 1960, everybody was arguing what Nigeria should be. Because everybody was looking at Nigeria from their own worldview. The Fulani were looking at Nigeria from a theocratic worldview. They came from an powerful Islamic civilization, Afro-Asiatic Islamic civilization. That was what they were using to govern, the Islamic system, Islamic tradition. And they said, if we want to be part of Nigeria, we are not going to forgo this. The Yoruba people were saying, yes, this is also who we are. We are a progressive monarchical system built on Oduduwa civilization. Let us understand that Nigeria is just a mere geographical expression. And we understand that Nigeria is a legacy of colonialism, imperialism, and genocide. But no problem, it has happened. And we are fighting something beyond us. So let us now, in order for us to make this work, we are not the only multi-ethnic and diverse country in the world. Switzerland is a good example. USSR is a good example. I'm giving you the argument of Chief Obafemi Awolowo. And what happened? And Awolowo argued, and the other fellow action group members, like Chief Bode Thomas, like I said, like another brilliant comrade. They said, look, and they are our fathers anyway, may they rest in peace. This is how we want to be governed. Let us have a federation. The only people that said no were the Igbos, led by Zeke. They wanted to turn Nigeria to a monolith. They wanted to create an homogeneous country from an heterogeneous country. They believe in the melting pot theory. That's why some of us, it is very, very wrong for Igbos to be clamoring for Biafra and to also to be gaslighting ignorant people as if the history of Nigeria started from 1967 to 1970. No. There were some fundamental disaster and there was some fundamental damage that happened between 1914 to 1960. You have to understand that it is the past that determines the present. It is the combination of the past and the present that determines the future. So we need to understand where we are coming from so that we can properly understand why some of us take the decisions we take. We are not, many of us, we are not seers, we are not prophets, and we do not have the ability to look into crystal balls when we make some decisions and the ability to change our positions. It is because of ability to learn what has happened in history, what has happened to the Tigrais, what has happened to the Circassians, what has happened to the Irish, what has happened to the Jews, what has happened to the Japanese. We look at this history and conceptualize and juxtapose, and that is why we take some decisions we take. And that is why we are saying today that the decision, the ideology of Azikwe that believed that the future of Nigeria is detribalized Nigeria. And that's why it was not surprising that we saw somebody like Mogalu who was advocating that genocide should be used as a tool of nation building. As crazy as what Mogalu was saying, if you understand your history very well, that was what Zeke was saying. That was what Nrosi was saying. And the question is, why are the Igbos doing this? The Igbos are doing it because they need Nigeria to survive. It is the reality. It is the reality. The Biafran agitation of 2020, of the 21st century, is nothing but an Igbo nationalist agenda in order to negotiate for a better power deal within Nigeria. It is the bitter truth. It is the bitter truth. We must not deceive ourselves, and we must not try as much as possible to be swindled by people who are talking about Biafra. What kind of Biafra are they talking about? So, because when your own forefathers were the ones that were responsible and still you are still pushing for bills that will destroy indigenous rights. You are pushing for bills that will destroy indigenous civilization. You are the ones going everywhere thinking you can dictate the politics of other indigenous spaces. You are creating problem in Edo State, in Idanke. You are creating problem in Lagos. You are creating problem everywhere. So this is the reality we need to tell ourselves. And this is why we need to understand what Nigeria is. It is an amalgamation of civilization. And Nigeria is not unique in this sense. In 1900, there was a Unionification Act that happened in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom, just like Nigeria, is an amalgamation of ethnic nations. United Kingdom is not just it's not a nation. It is the combination of nations. That's why many people are confused when they think Scotland is a country on its own, when they think Wales is a country on its own, and you see them so loud, arguing ignorantly. That's why it is very, very difficult for people like us to go to certain spaces or certain stages to be arguing with some people. It's an insult. If you except you want to actually in fact, except you want to diminish your intellectual prowess. So it is an amalgamation of nations. I'm talking about the United Kingdom. And that was why the Irish fought tooth and nail to ensure the balkanization of the United Kingdom. And that's how the Irish got out of the United Kingdom. So Nigeria is an amalgamation of ethnic nations. That was why it is totally criminal. It is totally suicidal It is it is a form of total madness for people to continue to say that for Nigeria to survive, we must destroy the ethnic identities within Nigeria. And that was what Mogalu was talking about when he was quoting some Pan-Africanist jargons that for country to survive, the nation survive, they must kill the tribe. You are going to see them always quoting this nonsense from Chuba Okadigbo, a man that is emotionally attached to his tribe, is no longer intelligent. Now, what is the basis of such nonsense? The reality is the clamor for a federal republic of Nigeria, like the biggest antagonists to a federated Nigeria within Nigeria has always been the Igbos, not even the Fulanis that we're talking about. The Fulanis have made their point known. If you go and look at anything the Fulanis are currently doing in Nigeria, they are just trying to take an advantage of a crazy system that happened since 1966. It's the bitter truth. It is the Igbos that are always conceptualizing and telling people that, oh, you need to be detribalized. You need to be detribalized. How do you detribalize? What sort of nonsense is that? We think detribalization is even a genocidal statement. It is a genocidal statement for you to say somebody should be detribalized. And when we are not going to say, oh, look at Nnamdi, we are not interested in that. We have to look at what the Igbo intellectuals are doing and what the Igbo intellectuals are saying. We have to look at what has the Igbo intellectuals since 1914 been doing in Nigeria. The Igbo intellectuals in 19 have been the brain behind of turning Nigeria to a monolith. Now, let me not tell you how dangerous. I'll give you two places on earth that you are never going to believe were never monolithic 300 years ago, but now they are monolithic. So to create, that's why there has been different arguments that for Nigeria to be, for the different arguments that largely homogeneous countries tend to have a higher degree of economic and political stability. So that is the ideology that people like Chairman Mao, from China, communist China, Atatürk Kemal, Adolf Hitler, even though he took it to a different level. What Adolf Hitler did, he learned it from Kemal, Atatürk Kemal. Kemalism came before Nazism. And if you look at what Atatürk Kemal did, you are going to see a similarity with what the Nazis did in Europe. So sometimes some people have even postulated that it was from what Atatürk Kemal did in Turkey that Adolf Hitler perfected what he did as regards to using political ideology and genocide in order to create a modern nation state. So that is why it's so scary for us to see somebody that has contested for presidency in Nigeria, somebody that we see always positioning himself as a progressive, saying that the only way one of the ways Nigeria can be a nation is to use the Atatürk system. In a proper country, Mogalu should be in jail. In a proper place where people are intelligent to understand what he's talking about, he should be sued. But because a lot of our people are ignorant, they don't know that people can use big grammar and be saying that your people should be exterminated. And you're not going to know. This is not a threat. This is the reality. So I'm going to give 3 examples. How many people know that 200 years ago, Japan was not an homogeneous country? One of the most homogeneous countries in the world. One of the most homogeneous countries in the world was Japan. One of the most homogeneous countries in the world was Japan is Japan in 2025. But 200 years ago, Japan was not an homogeneous country. In the northern part of Japan, there used to be a people called the Ainu people, who are 45% to 40 to 45% of the population of Japan. They are Ainu people. A different people, they spoke a different language, they look differently from the ethnic Japanese. And in the space of 100 years, within the space of 200 years, the Japanese were able to exterminate and push and assimilate and acculturate than genocide the indigenous Ainu people. So Japan went from being a multi-ethnic country as at the 1700 and the 1800, and by year 2000, they became a monolithic country. So that's why when we talk about extremely monolithic countries in the world, heterogeneous, homogeneous countries in the world, Japan is part of it. And Japan did not achieve that by when you want to achieve that kind of homogeneity, you are going to use bloodshed to achieve it. That was what Japan did in order to achieve that level of homogeneity. So you are going to erase people's language, you are going to erase people's culture, you are going to destroy people's identity, you are going to distort people's history, you are going to destroy everything, you are going to take their land, just like what was done to the Native Americans in the United States of America. Just like what was done to the indigenous people in South America. So that's what, and people do this and justify it under the banner of patriotism. That was what happened in the former USSR. In the former USSR, I'm going to give a good example. The USSR was broken into different places, different republics. Sometimes they call it oblasts. So in Russian. So in the USSR, there's a particular republic, former USSR, which was the Kazakh Republic, Kazakhstan, now called Kazakhstan. In the Kazakh Republic, before the creation of USSR, the Kazakhs were 80% of the 80 to 90% of the indigenous people around in the 1800s. By the time the Bolshevik Revolution happened, and there was a creation of Kazakhstan, of Kazakh Republic, was now part of the USSR. Now, what happened? Stalin started mass migrating in ethnic Russia from mainland Russia into Kazakhstan. Within the space of 20, 30 years, ethnic Russians became 20 to 30% of the population of Kazakhstan. And through systematic destruction, government policy, changing constitution. That's why constitution is the most effective way. Constitution is the most effective way to destroy and annihilate a people. You have to use the constitution. The constitution. So that's why you cannot be politically naive. You cannot be detribalized in Nigeria. If you are detribalized in Nigeria, your extinction is certain. Because there are two forces in Nigeria. There are forces that believe that everybody must be able to protect their ancestral land. That camp is what your forefathers fought for in Nigeria. In the person of Chief Obafemi Awolowo. That is why you see that there has been consensus agenda in order to misinterpret, in order to rubbish, and in order to give a different interpretation to which Chief Obafemi Awolowo is, especially from the Southeast. Because Chief Obafemi Awolowo, his ideology was ethno-linguistic federalism. Ethno-linguistic federalism, which everybody is going to mind their business within Nigeria. Igbo land for Igbos, Yoruba land for Yoruba land, Hausa land for Hausa people, the Tiv land for Tiv people. And it's because we refuse to follow these basic fundamentals. That is why Nigeria as a country has always been a country at war with itself. Because you ask yourself, who are the people doing the killings in Plateau State? They say, armed Fulani. It's the bitter truth. The Nasarawa governor said it few days ago. Another Nasarawa state governor said it few days ago. That it is Fulani people from outside Nigeria that are doing the killings in Benue, in Plateau. Why are they doing it? They are doing it because they need land. They are doing it because they want to expand. It is the bitter truth. Nigeria is at war with itself. It's at war with itself. What is happening in Nigeria? It's a disaster that will be even bigger than Sudan if we are not prepared. And there is no ignorance. And that's why we are trying to prepare the minds of our people to what is going to happen. And that's why some of us are saying, let us have state police. Let us be able to restructure this country along ethno-linguistic lines. Because there are some ethnic nations that believe that expansionism is a form of nation building. And you cannot stop them from doing this. You cannot change their mindset. Because everybody has been able to learn, has been able to perfect. Many groups have been able to perfect the use of Nigerian patriotism to get away with evil. To get away with evil. Somebody is going to say, oh, Lagos is not Yoruba land. And when you say, how can you say that? Are you trying to destroy the Yoruba people? The next is going to say, oh, you are not patriotic. Or somebody says, oh, why are you trying to say Nigeria should practice Sharia law? Nigeria is not an Islamic republic. Nigeria is a secular country. The next thing, oh, Islamophobia. So we need to understand that there are a lot of Nigerians have been weaponized against Nigeria. Just like the way a lot of Sudanese were weaponized against the survivor of the Sudanese state. And it happened, they destroyed Sudan. Just the way they destroyed Lebanon. And we need to be, look, there is no amount of, you cannot save, they are not redeemable. That's why we are praying for the political class. Because oftentimes, the political class, they will end up destroying the country and they're going to run away. That's the bitter truth. We've seen it in Afghanistan. There was democracy in Afghanistan for more than 10, 20 years. More than 10, 20 years. And they did nothing with it. They took away the Taliban and they started stealing. Nothing. They had 10, 20 years to fix Afghanistan. And in order to show the Afghans, especially the ethnic Pashtuns who are the majority, that look, you can have a secular country, a prosperous country, a progressive country like the UAE. They could not do it. And that's why our destiny is in our hands. We must not join the bandwagon of patriotism without telling ourselves the truth. So let's go back to what we're discussing. So Nigeria is an amalgamation. It is an amalgamation of different civilizations. Now I'm going to be talking about the civilizations in Nigeria. Nigeria is a unique country. I challenge everybody here listening to me. Show me a country. Show me a country in Africa. Show me a country in the world that has the number of empires within Nigeria as Nigeria has it. China, India, those are a few countries. Maybe the German-speaking areas of Europe where we have the Frankish, Holy Roman Empire, had existed. But in Nigeria alone, we have the Oyo Empire, Ife Empire, Benin Empire, Igala. Igala was an empire. I'm not going to go in there today. There was an Igala Empire. There was Kanuri Empire. There was the Sokoto Caliphate. Almost seven. Even Ogu almost became an empire. Almost 7 empires were within this space called Nigeria, within the space of 1,000 years. Now, apart from the different empires, we also have the different civilizations. When we talk about civilizations are advanced cultural concepts, advanced cultural reality that any group of people can attain. And within Nigeria alone, we have the Oduduwa civilization, the North civilization, the Fulani Afro-Asiatic Islamic civilization, the Kanuri Afro-Asiatic civilization. You have these different civilizations just within Nigeria alone. And we are talking about, some people are still hell-bent on removing ethnic identity. How do you destroy ethnic identity? You look at all over the world, in Europe, how did Europe survive? Europe, one of the reasons why Europe were able to conquer the world was this. Since the time of the Roman Empire, Europe has always been in a continuous state of war. So Europe understood warfare. It was after they killed themselves non-stop and they started exporting. When you go to war all the time, you are going to now start creating and inventing new techniques in order to be able to kill to kill your enemies. So they fought non-stop, that they were now able to develop more killing machines, And it was after development of these killing machines that they were able to go all over the world and destroy the rest of the world. Annihilate the indigenous people of North America and annihilate the indigenous people of South America. Because Europe understood war. And after they went all around across the world, they did the 1884 Berlin West African Conference and Berlin Conference. And they shared Africa into how they wanted how to do it. Look, the 1884 Berlin West African Conference happened. It was after they already took over the entire North America. Look at those big lands. They already took over and killed the indigenous people there. They took over the entire South America, making two continents. They took over the entire Australasian continent, which they call the Oceania continent, making 3 continents. Now, the 4th continent, which is Africa, they now say, let us do a meeting. Okay, we could not kill these people. We've not been able, even though they tried. That's why you look at different genocide in different parts of Africa, like the Nama and the Herero genocide that took place in current-day Namibia, where 80% of the indigenous people were wiped out by the Germans. And the land today is still in the hands of the German settlers, or the wiping out of the Hottentots, all these places. Now, they now say, look, let us break Africa into pieces. And everybody will take their share. And we are going to use the human resources and the mineral resources of Africa to power our industrialization. Don't let us kill ourselves in Africa. And they did it. And when that was not still enough, after doing what they did, they still went to go and kill themselves in 1914 to 1918. They call it the World War. It was a European tribal war. In 1939 to 1945, they went to go and kill themselves again. And after killing themselves, that was when this issue of United Nations Charter, self-determination, and little tribal European countries started to emerge. And they said, we have to ensure that everybody now have the right to have their country, because they learned the better way. Now, in Nigeria, we had people in Nigeria that, despite this reality, they are still unbuilt. That Nigeria they need to destroy the ethnic identities of people in Nigeria for Nigeria to survive. This is the mindset of Southeastern elites. It's the bitter truth. And unfortunately, some people have also bought into this idea in the Northwest. They bought into this idea in the Northwest, and that is because of what? Because of the nomadic behavior of Fulani herders. And they believe that the Fulani people can claim any land within Nigeria. That's why many of us fought against Ruga. That's why many of us fought against secular colonialism. And that's why some of us said, if President Buhari goes along without Ruga nonsense or water colony bill, there is no reason why Nigeria should not be renegotiated. Then the Yoruba people were not, look, there are ways in which you can have a land. You can take over a land. I want to say something here. That's why the rhetoric of the Igbos is the bitter truth. Does not bring peace to Nigeria. And we pray that a good political leader will emerge from the Southeast and prevent the Southeast from towing the path that Azikwe took them to again. We hope so. It's the bitter truth. They learned nothing from the Biafran War. Because there is no war in the world that is not fought along 3 basic things. People fight wars because of land. People fight wars because of the political and economic control of their space. People fight wars in order to be able to protect their heritage. Those 3 things. Those 3 fundamental things. That's why people fight wars. And Nigeria being an amalgam, just like the way, North Sudan and South Sudan were also a kind of amalgamation happened in 1943, where Northern Sudan, predominantly Arab, was merged with South Sudan, which was predominantly Christian, also around 1943. That was why Sudan failed, because it was a merge of different identities of different civilizations. And the funniest thing is this. South Sudan had the oil and gas. North Sudan does not have the oil and gas. But North Sudan had the seaports. And that was their arrogance, that we have a seaport. If Northern Nigeria had if the North had the seaport in Nigeria, maybe they would have done what North Sudan has done in Nigeria and pushed Nigeria into a full-blown civil war. Again, this is the bitter truth. And the reality is that it is the United Kingdom. The Scottish has been with the English for the past 600, 700 years. They intermarried. They even did the act of union, they call it the act of unification in the 18th century. Still, Scottish is still Scottish. English is still English. Right within the United Kingdom. How do people now think that you are now going to exterminate indigenous powerful indigenous civilizations like the Oduduwa civilization that survived Brazilian and Portuguese Empire, survived the Spanish Empire, survived the French Empire, survived different kind of genocide in America, and we are still striving. You are not going to say you have to destroy that for Nigeria to happen. Why? Why can't we be like the Swiss? Chief Obafemi Awolowo argued about the Swiss model. In the Swiss model, he said Switzerland has 4 ethnic nations. What you call tribes in Nigeria are called ethnic nations. Calling yourself a tribe is a form of a vernacular. It's a kind of a derogatory term to call yourself. Have you ever seen? I've read a lot of historical, a lot of European histories. And when I read a lot of European histories, books, towards the 14th, 15th century, they used to use the term tribe. Oh, the Germanic tribe, the Vikings, the Turkic tribes. That was how they referred to themselves. But by towards the 17th, 18th century, the different industrialization happening in Europe, they started using nations, empires. And when they now want to talk about Africa, they want to talk about Native Americans or Asia, they call them tribes. Because tribes means a people that are primitive, medieval, that are backward. And that is why it is wrong for you as a Black African to refer yourself as a tribe. If you are still calling yourself a tribe, no matter your degree and education, you are still mentally retarded. I'm sorry to use those strong words. Because ignorance is not, the reality is that many of us are not ignorant. The reality is that many of us are intentionally ignorant. It is called the internet, the age of internet ignorance. They don't want to listen. They just want to continue to utter the non-stop jargons. That was why Chief Obafemi Awolowo said, look, there needs to be a secession clause in Nigeria. In the future, some people might say they are no longer interested in Nigeria, they want to pull out. The only people that said they are not interested were the Igbos. Now, who are the loudest going about shouting Biafra? The same Igbos. And the reality is that sometimes there's no second chance in life. What you can get through political negotiation, it is better you don't go and get it through war. What you can get through political negotiation, that you can just use biro and pen to get. Don't go and sacrifice millions of your people to achieve it. That is why it's always good to have visionary leaders. It is always good to have visionary leaders that will always help you to be able to navigate the stormy waters of Nigerian geopolitics.
Please, can you
yeah, thank you very much. So, in the next 5 minutes, so I've been able to tell you that Nigeria is an amalgamation. And the future of Nigeria, there will not be a bloody Nigeria. Look, those who want to throw this country into a state of war, they are not giving up. Those who want to throw this country into a state of war and anarchy, many of them are in suit and tie. They live amongst us. They are on this space. They are everywhere, acting like patriots. It's all lies. It's all lies. If you are patriotic in Nigeria, you are going to use the examples of the killings in the Middle Belt to understand that you have to understand that you need to create a system that will protect indigenous people in Nigeria. You have to create a system that will protect the indigenous people in Nigeria. Peter Obi's madness of the Zikist ideology, where they want to be near, anybody can go anywhere. Igbo man can be anywhere. That is not the future of Nigeria. You are going to create another war. That was what Zik was doing. That was what Zik was saying. You need to understand that the reason for the balkanization of the regions, what Gowon was the biggest messiah of the ethnic minorities in Nigeria. He broke the regions into pieces. Why? He broke the regions into pieces so that ethnic minorities and the indigenous people can have political power to control their destiny. The regions did not allow indigenous minorities to control their destiny. You are going to see Major Jasper Adakaboro. Why did Major Jasper Adakaboro started taking arms against Nigeria? He said the Igbos were dominating him. They were dominating and impoverishing and oppressing his people. This is not a lie. Why did Southern Cameroon leave Nigeria? They left Nigeria because they said they don't want to be under Igbo domination in the East. Why did the Benin people, why did the Asian people, why did the Yoruba people leave the Western region? They said they want to flee Yoruba domination in the Western region. There's no need to lie. There is no need to lie that they don't want to be Yorubanized. Why did the Tiv people, the Doma people, the Ebira people, the Igala people, why did they fight to say they want a Middle Belt region? They did all these things because they said they don't want the Fulani people to Fulanize them and take over their land and destroy them in the northern region. Because they said that what Ahmadu Bello was doing was what? Islamization and Fulanization of their land. This is the truth. That was why there was the Tiv massacre in 1961, where over 50,000 people in the Middle Belt were either killed, tortured, or missing. So we need to understand this. That's why some people think, that's why Nigeria. Look, I want to conclude. Those who see Nigeria from the position of as an amalgam, people like us, we are the true patriots. And it is people like us that talk about justice. Once you see people talk about unity, oh, one Nigeria, they are all hypocrites. They are genociders. There are two options for Nigeria, for Nigeria's future. They say unity is good, justice is good. So before you talk about unity, there needs to be justice. That was what Peter Tosh was saying. Don't tell me about unity. Don't tell me I need equal rights and justice. So there are two ways. First way is we need to negotiate Nigeria's unity based on justice, fairness, equity. That is why we talk about restructuring. Restructuring is not just a fancy word. It is to take Nigeria back to the path of federalism and federation. That is why I love what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did. Changing the Nigerian anthem and said, though tribes and tongue may differ, it shows in brotherhood, it shows that Nigeria is different, tribes and tongues. If not, a madman will stand up one day and say, we've seen them anyway. We've seen them, especially our Western educated illiterates in the South. You see them, and let us start using Pidgin English as a form of national language. These are insane people, insane lunatics. We also see some people that will say, oh, let us, one person will say, let us use Hausa language one day. It has happened in Niger Republic. Only 50% of Niger Republic speaks Hausa language. Under a military junta, Now they forced Hausa language as the lingua franca of the entire Niger Republic. And you are going to see Pan-Africanists. Oh, people that are supporting Traore in Burkina Faso. Oh, this is good. This is good. Those are the lunatics in our midst. If these people get power tomorrow and they have the guns and bullets, they will force Hausa language on the rest of us and say they are doing one Nigeria. They want to turn Nigeria into a monolith through blood and violence and bloodshed. And we must not underestimate these mad people. Sorry, I'm using these crazy people. So Nigeria's future is through two ways. One, through a negotiate, you have to negotiate it, social negotiation, like we did in Lancaster House, time of Awolowo, Amadu Bello Zik, or we force it. Mogalu has already suggested it. Let's go the way of Kemalism, which is like Adolf Hitler's system. Kill as many people as possible, ban the speaking of Yoruba language, and they've tried it before. Nigeria has banned Yoruba Ronu before. Because some people believe for Nigeria to survive, the Yoruba identity needs to be destroyed. They did it. It's because we do not understand history that we do not know that the Yoruba people are the biggest victims of Nigeria. They're the biggest victims of Nigeria. The killings of our political leaders and elites between 1990 and 1999, no race can survive that purge. No race. They killed the best of our best, of the best brains. And some people still come on and telling us about patriotism and all these things. So we need to understand that Nigerian unity needs to be negotiated. We need to actually negotiate it. We need the different ethnic components to be on the table. That is the pathway to Nigeria's prosperity, stability, or the other way that this man has postulated. Kingsley Moghalu, which is Kemalism. Just like the Turks, they killed the Greeks, massacred the Armenians, exterminated the Kurds, killed as many people as possible, destroyed the Circassians, and they created modern Turkey within 100 years. And nobody talks about it. Everybody has moved on. They've wiped out more than 25 million people. That is what they are also advising in Nigeria. And that's what Zik was also advising in Nigeria. That's why he wanted to become the premier of Western region when he has no business in our internal politics. That's why some people are still transferring PVC from the southeast into the southwest to determine our political future. And when they are coached, that why are they doing it? They say, oh, they are doing it because of what? One Nigeria. So, in conclusion, Nigeria is an amalgam. Any plan to change Nigeria's future from an amalgam into a monolith will lead to a bloody confrontation in the future. Thank you, everybody, once again. May Olodumare continue to be with us.